The smell of rosemary and garlic filled the air as Elena Reyes plated the final course of the evening. She smoothed her apron, stepped into the glow of the kitchen pass window, and rang the bell. A hush fell across the dining room. Tonight wasn't just another service. Tonight, she wasn't just feeding strangers. Tonight, she was cooking for the very people who had once turned their backs on her. As applause erupted, Elena looked down at her hands, the same hands that had once scrubbed dishes behind closed doors, the same hands that had packed up her life in a trash bag. Now, they were feeding a sold-out dining room in her own restaurant. It hadn't come easy. But every slice, every shift, every scar had led to this. Because when the world tells you you don't belong, sometimes you have to cook your way back. Elena grew up in the back of her mother's bodega in San Antonio. Their apartment smelled like fried plantains and lemon-scented floor cleaner. Her father left when she was 5. Her mother worked 14-hour days just to keep the lights on. Elena rarely saw her, except when dinner needed to be made. Even then, her mother would fall asleep at the table, still wearing her apron. By 10, Elena could make arroz con pollo with her eyes closed. By 13, she was shadowing her uncle in a food truck, learning how to season tacos by instinct, how to listen to the sizzle of a flat-top grill like it was music. But when her mom got sick, everything changed. Cancer didn't come with a warning. One day her mother had a headache. The next week, she was in the hospital with tubes running from her arms. Elena dropped out of high school to care for her. Bills piled up. Neighbors whispered. Extended family distanced themselves. When her mother passed, Elena was 18 and completely alone. She spent 3 weeks couch surfing. Then she got a job at a diner as a dishwasher. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what she dreamed of. But it was food. It was heat. It was a start. She watched the kitchen like a hawk. The rhythm. The language. The flow. One day, a prep cook quit mid-shift. The head chef shouted, "Anyone want to earn extra tonight?" Elena raised her hand before she had time to doubt it. That night, she chopped onions until her hands blistered. But she was in it. From there, she worked every position they would let her touch. Guard manger. Grill. Sauce. She borrowed cookbooks from the library. Took online culinary classes on borrowed Wi-Fi. Her breaks were filled with recipe flashcards. She watched Gordon Ramsay videos on mute, studying his technique. But wages were low. She moved from couch to couch, then to her car. Still, she kept cooking. On weekends, she volunteered to help prep for banquets at a local community center. It paid nothing, but it gave her access to commercial kitchen equipment and bulk ingredients. She practiced making sauces in disposable cups and learned to break down a whole chicken with a dollar store knife. There was a winter week where she slept in the diner's storage closet. She told herself it was temporary. The manager found out. Fired her. She walked out into the cold, holding a duffel bag and a bag of day-old bread they let her keep. That night, she sat in the back of a community center, quietly eating stale bread and watching a TV cooking competition on a dusty screen. And that's when she said it out loud, for the first time. "I want to be a chef." The next day, she walked into a culinary school and asked how much it would cost. The admissions officer looked at her, noted her torn coat and dirt-smudged hands, and sighed. But another woman overheard. A culinary instructor named Ms. Hart. She pulled Elena aside. "You remind me of me," she said. "Here's a scholarship form. Fill it out. Don't quit." School wasn't easy. Most students had supportive families. Backups. safety nets. Elena had none of that. She worked part-time at a bakery to afford her knives, slept in a hostel, bartered cookies for bus rides. She made flashcards on French culinary terms, practiced knife cuts with potatoes and carrots from the food bank. But in class, she shined. Her flavors were bold, her plating instinctive, her grit unmatched. One professor said, "You don't cook for the eye. You cook from the gut." That's rare. She interned at a high-end fusion restaurant. Showed up early, left late. Kept her head down and her ears open. She was the only woman in the kitchen. Some chefs mocked her accent. Others ignored her entirely. She didn't care. She made herself indispensable. She memorized the recipes, anticipated orders, cleaned stations that weren't hers, worked weekends without complaint. Eventually, they noticed. She was promoted to junior sous. Just as things were looking up, the restaurant closed due to a lease dispute. Elena was out of work again. She applied everywhere. Nothing stuck. So she got creative. She started a pop-up, borrowed a friend's backyard, posted a menu on Instagram, offered pay-what-you-can Latin comfort food. The first night, 3 people showed up. The second night, 10. By the end of the month, she had a wait list. She reinvested every dollar into ingredients, bought a used tent, built her own folding sign with plywood and spray paint. A local food blogger came, then a newspaper, then a grant program. With that grant, she bought a food trailer. She named it Beneath the Apron. It was her way of saying, "There's more to me than you see." She served traditional dishes with modern twists: bria ramen, yuca gnocchi, fried chicken with mole drizzle. People lined up around the block. Food critics took notice. One called her a rising voice in regional cuisine with a story as rich as her flavors. 5 years later, Elena opened her first brick-and-mortar. The same uncle who taught her to make tacos cut the ribbon. The menu was filled with love letters to her mother's kitchen: empanadas, oxtail stew, guava flan. The walls were painted sunshine yellow. The floors, hand-tiled by Elena herself. She hired staff from halfway homes, culinary schools, and recovery programs. Because she knew what it felt like to need just one person to believe in you. The night of the grand opening, she looked at the crowd. There were old friends, new fans, food critics, and yes, even the cousins who'd once told her she'd never make it. She smiled and got back to the kitchen. Every plate she sent out that night carried more than food. It carried memory. It carried struggle. It carried the quiet fire of someone who had earned her place. Her story was featured in a national food magazine. She was invited to speak at a culinary summit. And she always ended her speech the same way. Not everyone has a home, but everyone deserves a table. So I built one. They say the kitchen reveals who you are. For Elena Reyes, it revealed everything she was always told she couldn't be. Chef, owner, leader, and finally, home. Because sometimes, the recipe for belonging starts with just one ingredient: belief. And sometimes, you have to cook your way there.